And I'm Ayo Makinde. Good morning and welcome. Today is 11th of May. Yeah, I noted this day 2 weeks ago when someone told me we're going to have a particular guest today. Yeah, she's looking at me, isn't she? Yeah, she is. Hey, Alera, how you doing? Have you had a cup of cocoa this morning? Or is it cocoa you had?
You know, we've often spoken about mental health on this program. I think my partner has a problem. So all those therapists we've been bringing in, I think he actually needs the attention of one or two of them.
Well, let me make it better. When I was in secondary school, a Deacon Oguntono at Olivet Baptist High School, Oyo, between 1979 and 84, said to us that every human being has 5 minutes of madness.
Of course. He said, my economics teacher said 2.
Oh.
2 minutes every day of madness. So it's allowed.
In 24 hours, 5 minutes. It's okay.
It's not too much. It's not too much.
We have to divide 24 hours by 5 to know how many seconds each should last.
Oh dear. Cybersecurity levy. That's the one everybody is shouting about now. Including you, including me. I mean, all these taxes and one more is added. You know my take on all of this? If something serious could be done about the oil thieves, if the avenues of stealing money, where we hear that some governor has gone with, then some accountant general has gone away with, and they're all in the billions. If all those holes where they steal all these monies are blocked, then we won't need to be levied cybersecurity, whatever. I mean, we are burdened. You know, the weight of taxes is heavy upon Nigerians. Nigerians who can hardly feed, whose minimum wage is still 30,000 naira, in a country where a bottle of Coke is now 300 naira, a bag of rice is 70,000 naira, and somebody...
Where did you buy it for 70,000 naira?
Well, somebody said they bought it for, I think, 60 the other time. So I'm just saying, okay, since dollar has gone up again, let me add...
The last time I heard they said was in the 85, 90,000 naira.
It's gone up again.
So I heard.
Oh, God.
Maybe it's lower now, I don't know.
Oh, poor Nigerians. I feel for you, I feel for us. I feel for us. And in this country, some lawmakers are making as much as 37 million a month.
Which one is that?
They say.
Oh, is this?
They say.
Yes.
Because they've never really answered the question. We keep asking them, how much do you earn in a month? And they dodge the question. They dodge the question because they are afraid to tell us. Maybe if they told us, we'll come after them.
We had a deputy governor, a former deputy governor of Kogi State, actually, say, when we asked him, how much does a governor make and all of those things, he said, oh, you talked about security. Well, no one asked me. So you talked about security votes. Said, I said, how much is the security vote? Said, well, depending on the governor, Well, you haven't still told us exactly how much. Something around, on the average, about 300 million.
A month.
A month. Anyway, it's but he said average, so we don't know whether it's the same thing in Borno State, Bauchi State, or Adamawa State, and the rest of them. But to the issue of cybersecurity levy that you raised, I don't know. Well, from what I have heard, and upon asking guest after guest, one of the things that we've been made to understand is that Nigeria is probably the first country to have a cybersecurity level. Hey, there's nothing wrong in being the first, right? Come on. Something to be proud of. What?
I laugh because are we the only ones who have...
We are first at this one. No? Let everybody else copy us.
Okay, all right.
Yes, that's one.
Okay.
That's number one.
Those who are unbanked, will now further hide their monies in their bedrooms.
Now, that is where, the consequences are the things that I think need to be really spoken about.
Anyway, we're having guests, and we're going to talk about this in detail later. And the experts will tell us the consequences. And the benefit.
Yes.
And why we should be the ones paying for security, cyber security, and what has been happening with the banks since. So all the monies we have been transferring all these years, they were not safe.
No comment.
Okay. We will ask the experts when they come. Okay. Mind you, you know that Labour has threatened government about that, don't you?
Well, it's a threat. We don't know whether it's going to happen yet.
Okay. Sometimes you should take their threat seriously because, already, as they say in this country, their eye, they chook. Their eye, because minimum wage is still 30,000 naira. They're still fighting that fight. So right now, anything else you take to them, man, if they give you backhand, please don't complain.
Are you talking about men or women or what?
Labour.
Well, until then.
Okay, all right.
Then.
But remember, their eye, they chook.
So what are we talking about this morning?
Okay, well... Aptly, the first thing we're going to look at this morning is the cybersecurity benefits of the levy. Sorry, levy.
I like the benefits part.
Benefits. There's no benefit there. All you do is pay.
And then, this is something that's of concern. And of course, my producer is the environment specialist. So what do we need to do to prepare for the coming rainfall? There are those who are thinking, hasn't the rain started already? Well, it depends on what side you are looking at. So.
And then after that, the realities of Lagos urban plans.
But for those of you who have been wondering, pulling this one down, pulling that one down to what end?
Oh, wow.
And then lifestyle. We're talking about family dynamics this morning. What's the impact on who?
Grandma. And then we shall have closer with the Artist of the Week segment, as is usual on Sunrise.
And
she's a she.
She.
And have you heard of BAP before?
No, I've heard of KAP.
BAP. She'll be here.
That's I think that's a hint, right?
She'll be here this morning to close Sunrise.
So please go ahead and grab your cup of cocoa, whether it's hot or cold.
Or cocoa.
Whether it's hot or cold.
See you in just a moment. Thank you for being with us this lovely Saturday morning. Cybersecurity levy. Who benefits? There's been a lot of talk about this cybersecurity levy matter in the course of the week, and the Senate had earlier this week said that the newly introduced 0.5% cybersecurity levy on some banking transactions by the federal government was not meant to punish Nigerians, as it has numerous exemptions to protect and relieve ordinary citizens, particularly the poor. But the question, as many Nigerians would say, is who cybersecurity levy ep? So, to tell us if it is epping anybody, we have a panel this morning, and it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Philip Iwe Hoya, Chief Information Security Officer and Data Protection Officer, NPF Microfinance Bank. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We also have a financial analyst, Mr. Yinka Ogunubi. Good morning.
Glad to be here.
Let me start from where you might consider the wrong end of this matter. We have heard, Mr. Ogunubi, we have heard a lot about this week. And it seems that there was an amendment to the law about this year, which not many people seem to have heard about. And the senator was on one of our programs last night telling us that, yes, it went through due process, there was a public hearing, but did you hear of any public hearing regarding this?
Or was it not public?
And you are in the industry. That's your turf.
Okay, so it's a bit, you know, I didn't hear of the public hearing, you know, and I didn't hear because I wasn't paying attention, you know, at that time. And that,
but should one be paying attention? It should be in our faces because it's to invite all stakeholders.
Well,
don't you think?
Yeah, yes, but you see, the thing is that the Cybersecurity Act is about so many things. So the ones that seem to prick the interest of everybody right now is that
the levy.
It's a levy.
Yes.
So, but the levy is just one section.
Okay.
It's not even a section. It's just one line in a section. You know, so there's so many other things about the Cybersecurity Act that you know, should unnecessarily pique the interest of all Nigerians. And you know, so if we're talking about the public hearing, you know, that should incorporate everybody. So I don't think at that time people were paying attention. I think this was in November 2023. Probably other things, you know.
No, they said the amendment was made in 2024.
No, the public hearing was in November 2023.
Okay.
The third reading of the bill was in December.
Okay.
And then by February, the president had signed it. You know, and in fact, when the president signed it, nobody knew. You know, so if you go on Google today, I actually search when did the president sign the amendment to the National Cybersecurity Act, you will not find any media, you know, reports about it. So I think, and this is not to put you on the spot, that it's both the issue of Nigerians paying attention and also the media also letting them know what is going on, because if you go on the National Assembly website, it will show there's a schedule there about all the bills they are considering, all the public hearings that they're going to have, all the stuff is there. So if the media is not shedding light on that and letting people know that, okay, this is going on, because it's going to be a law, and that law eventually...
I assure you that if it concerns levy, if it concerns Nigerians paying more, they will pay attention. What do you think?
Yeah, you're right. They will pay attention, but like you mentioned, the need for public participation is very key. And I think if that was really put to the public in terms of them aware and participating in the process, I think that would also enhance what the government is trying to pass across, because the issue of cybersecurity is very key, and it poses a huge threat to our national security and even the development of the digital economy. So all those things are very critical.
And Philip, what is your take about what my partner had said to me earlier, that we are leading the charge in having a cybersecurity levy? We are the first country to introduce that.
Or are
so the rest of the world should learn from us this time. But let me confirm with you, are we the first to introduce a cybersecurity levy?
Yeah, based on when the information came out, I also tried to reach out to some other professionals in other countries. They don't have it directly as cybersecurity levy, but there is a way they carry out that charge, which I think we would have also done a kind of consultation to see how it's been done over there. So when we're implementing ours, we will not be at totally different from what they are doing at some point. But the issue in terms of whether there is a levy directly is not just labeled cybersecurity levy from information we've gathered so far.
Well, Mr. Ogunubi, it's one thing that is curious to me is that nothing about this provision is new. It's almost 10 years old.
Yes, 9 years old.
9 years.
Yeah.
And we're just hearing about it now. Why?
I think it's because of the discrepancies in the bill. There are lots of issues raised by that bill that even the lawmakers themselves knew to be difficult to implement.
Such as?
I get into them, and they try to do some of them through the amendment, because the bill was signed May 15, 2015. Okay, at the twilight of the Jonathan administration. The Buhari administration, for whatever reason, decided not to implement that particular section of the bill. And then there was a discrepancy at some point in 2018. The CBN, maybe not the CBN, but they tried to implement it.
Yes.
So there was a circular to all the banks to implement the bill, the act at that time. But that circular quoted the rate as 0.005%, which was not what was in the act. The act just said the rate is 0.005. That's all. Now, 0.005 could mean 0.05 kobo. It could mean percent. Probably they saw that was also an issue, which they corrected in the amendment. So the amendment clearly said 0.005%. The 0.05, and then in bracket 0.5%, because 0.005 mathematically means 0.5%. So
all that was missing in the 2015 provision is the percentage.
No. There were like 20 amendments. It wasn't. Okay. It was just one of the amendments. So it wasn't everything. But the issue here goes beyond just that percentage in itself, and I'm just focusing on that levy in itself, because there are issues to it. One of it, for instance, there's already an electronic money transfer levy. All right, you remember the stamp duty conversation? The Finance Act of 2020 amended that, and then there was this controversy around it, and so they amended it, and they changed the stamp duty to electronic money transfer levy, all right, which is the 50 naira you get on whatever. So there's already a tax.
Well, they said that one is for the infrastructure.
Whatever it is. They call it electronic money transfer.
That's because people pay it. So it doesn't
people already pay. So people are already paying it. So essentially what I'm saying is that this is like double taxation, because you're already taxing on electronic money transfer, and you're now saying that another electronic money transfer has to be charged. Okay, this cybersecurity, and then there's a provision in that act that talked about it's only businesses in the second schedule, and there are 5 businesses there that they are highlighted: GSM, telcos, internet providers, banks, and insurance companies, and then stock exchange. So the question is, if you look at that, you say, it doesn't affect me, just those institutions. But then those institutions have transactions.
And you transact business
with them. So essentially, you're saying, it's for businesses, but those businesses have transactions that impact individuals. So
directly.
And then I think the last issue really has to do with the fact that when did the Office of the National Security Advisor become a revenue-generating agency where they can collect via the CBN unappropriated funds? So this raises up significant issues. And I think maybe these were the things we were trying to deal with all that time, why they didn't implement it for 9 years.
Was there any cyber threat that may have led to this amendment at this time?
Okay, maybe Philip will speak more to that, but let me say that the threat of cybersecurity is real. So let's not kid with it.
Okay.
According to the to NIBS, National Interbank Settlement System. They've published, so many times the amounts of money, for instance, that the banks have lost. In fact, some of the banks, they put it in their financials. In 2023, for instance, about a few banks, 5 or 6 banks, reported a total loss of about 10 billion naira. Okay, we about 90% of attempts to crack certain to hack systems succeeded.
About 90.
About 90. About they say 40 something. There's 43,000 something attempt. 41,000 succeeded. Ouch. So, and then so when you look at it, you realize, and that's just on the transaction side. When you now look at state cybersecurity, there are state agents right now that all they do is just, they can target your infrastructure and then wipe out your money. So the threat of cybersecurity is real. Nobody is saying that it's not important. It is important, and it's the new horizon in terms of cybersecurity. The question is
the process.
Who should pay for it? Because the Nigerian Constitution is very clear. I think Section 14 is very clear that the duty of government, the primary responsibility of government is security. So why you are outsourcing that to me to pay the bills? I think that's the question to be asked.
Yes, Philip. Was there any cyber threat that could have led to this at this time?
Yeah, added to the statistics he has given, the cyber crime industry is the third largest industry in the world. Meaning there are worth over...
Cyber crime
industry. It's an industry. It's the third largest industry in the world. And it's worth billions of dollars. Meaning, like you mentioned, you have the state actors, you have the activists, you have the nation-sponsored attacks. And you saw what is happening in Iran. Also, now what is happening is nations are not attacking nations via the cyberspace. So, and that, like I mentioned, our digital economy is growing on a very fast pace. And issue of cyber threat, if not holistically managed, it can have an impact on the growth of the economy. So if you look at some of the things they introduced when I was reading the amendment in terms of the security, it talked about things around having a national forensic lab. Those are things that we never had, which is important.
My apologies. Also speak to what Mr. Ogunobi just spoke to now, the fact that the law is there. It is the job of the government to implement its own laws, or rather, it's the job of government to implement its own law, whether it's the National Assembly that promulgated the law and then the federal government is aware of it, the executive arm is aware of it or not. It's not the business of the Nigerian. You are government. You have three arms. You have your jobs to do and all of those things. So speak to what he talked about now, that who should be paying for it? Should it be the Nigerian paying this cost of this cybersecurity, or it is something that should be borne by the system? So, since you also work in a bank, speak to the angle that he brought in, where he said that there is also some form of electronic charge to the Nigerian. So, what would necessitate this one?
Okay, like the charge, for example, like the transfer charge, most times goes to the payments platforms that are using carrying out this transaction. Yeah, like you mentioned, the government has a responsibility of providing security for the citizens. I think what they should look at is, based on the threat we are exposed to, what other alternative can we use in addressing this threat without necessarily probably increasing the burdens on the citizen. Like you mentioned, we already have so many multiple tasks. So in that case, they have to be like, how do we benchmark and have a balanced scorecard, looking at the threat, looking at the economic situation, such that we're able to provide the needed security needed for our citizen in terms of the transaction, and also not necessarily increasing their burden. So that is where the point of discussion comes in. And like you mentioned, we're having a kind of discussion, a robust public discussion around it within the citizen, the government, the various professional bodies, and this institution to say, okay, how do we achieve this? Okay, even the tax authorities also need to come into place to look at it. This revenue being collected, is it going to the NSA, or should it be the tax that should be responsible? How does it affect the other tax that are already in place, so that there will not be multiplicity? So those things need to really come into place so we can really know how it fits in. But saying currently what we have is raising a lot of concern and is a point of concern for every citizen. But critically, it needs to be looked at to find a central position on how we can address this issue. But to neglect the fact that the threats we are faced with should not be addressed is...
That's not what is being said here, if memory serves me right. For instance, let me read out some bank charges to you, which you are aware of. As at 2019, and Bank, which was, this one was published in 2022. Electronic funds transfer, ATM charges, Naira card charges. You gave me a card, you're charging me for maintaining it. Intra-scheme money transfer, cashless policy, I have to pay for that one as well. You have status inquiry, embassy letter, all kinds of things. I have to pay for the short messages you send to me to tell me my balance, which is your job, and all of those things. Okay, well,
most times they send you 3 SMSs a month, but they charge you for 10.
Someone was telling me in the course of this week that one day, just one day, he received about 15 text messages of charges.
Well, that means his account was busy.
I said, anyway.
So they had to send him at every turn what his balance was.
Well, Mr. David Olumuyiwa has since joined us. He's the founder of Digital Tribes Technology. They're a fintech body. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We're talking about this cybersecurity levy. Let me take it with you from a completely different angle. Mr. Ogunubi was just telling us the vulnerability of the system in some cases where bank charges, the vulnerability of Nigerian financial institutions, saying about 90% of attempted hacks were successful. Now, I know, I've heard it said by what they call ethical hackers, that they have pointed to government from time to time that, look, you guys are vulnerable. Who is listening? That's the concern. Now, in your own opinion, or from where you sit as someone in this space, how vulnerable are we, and why do I have to be the one to pay for cybersecurity? For the money that I already give you to do business, that you don't tell me. You're using my money to do business, and I'm not a shareholder in your bank. I could go on and on.
You don't tell him how much profit you're making from using his money, and you want him to pay again because he wants to transfer some little money up and down.
And you charge, anyway, let me go on.
So talking about vulnerability, certainly we are vulnerable.
How vulnerable are we? Do you agree with Mr. Ogunubi?
Absolutely, but I don't have the data. I can't say we're 90% or 80%, but obviously we're vulnerable. I've worked with the banks before. I've also been in fintech. I've also done a lot of things related to doing transactions online. It's very, very obvious that we're vulnerable. Some banks don't just have it yet, whereas some others are very good, at what they do. But a few of the banks are not so, so good. When you do what we call reconnaissance and you want to check how vulnerable they are, maybe as an ethical hacker, you see a lot of loopholes, you see a lot of stuff that are not supposed to be there in an ideal situation, and you know for a fact that if you know what you're doing on the wrong side of the law, you could get away with a few things, within those platforms. But the banks are always innovating, around security. All right, so we may not want to be too hard on them. The cybersecurity space is vulnerable almost everywhere in the world. I mean, I tell people there are 2 categories of individuals that you can never be totally secured from when it comes to cybersecurity: a genius and a fool. Either of these guys can mess up with your system. No matter how good you think the system is, a fool will come in and do something foolish and, disrupt the whole system. And a very good guy, a genius, can also come in and disrupt the system. I mean, we've seen even the Pentagon being hacked. So what are we talking about? All right. However, I'm surprised that this cybersecurity levy and all of that is focused just on banks. The financial institutions, because it's supposed to be cyber security, not financial infrastructure security. So when you look at the gamut of the cyberspace where we operate as a country now, we are activating infrastructures online. Our elections are going online. Now we do registration and all of that online. Of course, financial services are online, telcos are online, education online. Look at our airport, transportation, we're online. So there is indeed a need for us to secure the cyberspace. So I wonder why we're focused more on the financial sector, which is just a microcosm of the cyberspace.
Well, from what we know, it's not just the banks and other financial institutions. Information available, even in that same cybersecurity law, says that, in the second schedule, it says businesses affected by that provision in section 44 sub 2A refers to GSM service providers and all telcos, internet service providers, banks and other financial institutions, insurance companies, Nigerian Stock Exchange. So maybe they are saying that the bill to take care of that the cybersecurity, perhaps because they think they're the most vulnerable. The question I'm asking is, what is your take on the process that it is the subscriber that has to pay? Because what this is sounding like to me is that it's not just on bank charges that Nigerians are going to pay 0.5%. Every call I make could also be charged 0.5%.
It's not been said yet.
Yep. Potentially.
It's not been said yet.
It's not been said, but that's what the law says.
So this is why I wanted to tie it to all the other areas of the cybersecurity that will be affected by this, that should be affected by this levy. I'm wondering why we have to restrict it to just financial services and bill about 60 million Nigerians with BVN for a service that the government should be responsible for. I've tried to look into how the US, the EU countries are handling cybersecurity funding. I discovered that it's from the government budget. In fact, in the US, it says from the president's budget. That's where they fund their own cybersecurity, stuff from. But here, it looks to me like, a situation where there is hunger in the land, and the mother is turning to the children that she's got to roast them for meal, for sustenance. The government should go about raising their own funds to deal with the situation, not turning to us, to fund their own responsibilities. It shouldn't be my responsibility. So what happens if I get hacked and I get, someone takes my money after paying that levy on that transaction? What happens? Will you bear the responsibility because you're supposed to secure the space? And now my money is being taken. Are you going to pay for that?
Mr. Dada, the focus of this whole matter is on the banks.
Yes.
You can't deny that. And these banks, at the end of every financial year, publish in the newspapers and declare humongous profits.
Absolutely.
So why can't they, from those profits, secure what they need to secure to keep their customers safe?
The truth of the matter is that the banks already have budget for cybersecurity.
But it's not enough.
We can't say because we don't really know what they're doing and how far they've gone down the road.
But they're not achieving much by it.
But if you look at all
from what we have heard, if 90% of hacking attempts succeed.
Yeah, well, that is still debatable. But if you look at the infrastructure that helps us to do all these transactions, the NIPs of this world, the MasterCard, Visa cards of this world, the InterSwitch of this world, and so on and so forth. These guys are invested heavily on cybersecurity, heavily. So I wonder what happens to that when we start paying for another cybersecurity levy, because that is supposed to be taken care of from what we are being charged already. So why are we being levied an extra fee to secure the financial transactions that we're running?
Okay. Mr. Ogunubi, the Tax Reform Committee was set up to harmonize taxes because it was discovered that there were too many taxes.
Yes.
Do you think that this was run by the tax committee before it was brought to us?
Obviously not. Obviously it wasn't. Because what led to this was, like I said, this was first attempted in 2018. For some reason, they didn't implement it. They didn't go ahead. The CBN sent circulars to all banks. 2018, you need to start implementing this. For whatever reason, it wasn't done. Maybe they got a call from above that said, don't do it. So it ended there. So it's not like this. It's not like this the first time. But it's obvious that this wasn't brought through because 4 days before the CBN issued that circular, the NSA at a conference in Abuja somewhere had made that announcement to say that directive, or I don't know the exact language you use, but something to the extent that the authorities have been asked to start the implementation of that particular provision in the Act. So the CBN, in its circular, the one that we are all fixated on, mentioned that in the first paragraph of that circular. In fact, I think I have the circular here.
That's the 2018 circular.
No, the 2024 circular. It says it referenced the earlier CBN circular and letter to banks dated June 25th, 2018. It referenced that, and October. In fact, there were two circulars, respectively, on compliance with the Cybersecurity Prevent Act. The recent public engagements by the Office of the National Security Advisor on the subject matter also refers. So, essentially, the CBN. This is the CBN saying it is not me. Don't no, it's not. I'm not the one that's doing this.
I'm innocent of all charges.
It's the NSA. And we know the NSA reports to the president. So essentially, what you have there is basically saying that go meet the president, go meet the presidency, and ask them what happened. But it's obvious that there was no, and this is the challenge that we have with our governance. That is, there is no collaboration, going on. There's no synergy in terms of all the different agencies. The fiscal side have to look at this because this levy is problematic on many, many grounds, not even on the 0.5 or no 0.5. The issue here is you are basically punishing people for using a digital platform that you have a policy itself to push. You have a cashless policy that is, driving people towards electronic payment. Now you are punishing them from using that electronic payment, and so it becomes regressive because at the end of the day, people will go back to, using checks and cash. So essentially, really, it's about these agencies of government, how are they cooperating and how are they working together. I don't think they are.
Now, Philip, we have a National Information Technology Development Agency or something. NITA. So if that exists, how does it become the business of the NSA's office to be telling us about cybersecurity levy? What, therefore, is the job of NITA?
So, like you mentioned, like the NITA, for example, they cover issue around data protection. Now, all those various agencies of government that deals with things around cybersecurity technology, there has to be a kind of collaboration, so that when there's a synergy, for example, they would have had a thorough thought at this beep, for example, look at it, how does this affect, where is a disconnect, because it's like one agency is doing something, another agency is doing something else, and at the end of the day, there seems to be in silos. But if they are collaborating, for example, all of these things would have been thought of. Then what NIDA is doing, for example, they are just focusing on data protection. Now, we have what we call the National Cybersecurity Strategy Policy that was signed by, I think, 2015 or 2018 by the previous administration. Now, that framework talked about how we should look at our national cybersecurity architecture in terms of critical infrastructure. Now, all of these things would have come together with the framework. Then CBN is also pushing something from the financial sector. They have what we call the risk-based cybersecurity framework for DMB, for OFI, and other PSP. So all of these institutions have come together to look at all of...
What do all of those mean?
So these are frameworks, these are processes on how we should address cybersecurity-related issues.
She was talking about all those codes, the deposit money bank for
DMB, deposit money bank, OFI, other financial institution. That's where you have the like of the microfinance bank, the payment service bank.
Thank you.
So what are they doing? Like you mentioned, the issue around this trade to look at, okay, what are the things they should put in place within all of those regulatory frameworks? They define things around how they should have fraud system to ensure that all of this issue of risk faced by customers are not there. Then one of the key critical things I also see, like you mentioned, is what happens to the customer? And some area this bill did not really look at is issue around cyber insurance. It's very, very critical because when there is a loss, who insures the customers? Money.
NDIC, what about NDIC? That there's already
NDIC insures for Nigeria deposit insurance in terms of when the bank bankrupt. when there's a bankruptcy in the bank. NDIC is already taking about. For example, when someone money gets lost as well as cyber attacks, so something like that would have formed part of what would have been amended in the bill that will help also give some citizens.
So you think that government could actually divert this levy into the insurance? Don't even answer that question.
No, that's not what I'm thinking.
Patrick Sonny sent an email. Says, just draw attention to what currently obtains. The electronic fund transfer charge of 50 naira is for government, while 6 naira 98 kobo per transaction is for telcos for the maintenance of their infrastructure that is provided for such transfers. Is that what you were referring to the other time?
Absolutely.
So they already charged me almost 7 naira.
So per 1,000, if this goes through, we'll be paying 5 naira per 1,000. If this goes through, in addition to all the other charges we were mentioning the other time.
So they will now be getting more than 10 naira.
Absolutely.
For every.
I mean, it's going to be way more than 10 naira.
And this is just bank. This is just for the bank.
Yeah.
The telcos have not come up with their own.
Their own, and all of that.
Please don't. Morakinyo on X says, so if I have my money taken through cybercrime from my account, is the bank going to pay me back or the NSIA since I paid the levy? That's what you just
exactly where I'm going. So these are some of the things that's currently not captured there.
Okay.
So most aspects.
Yeah. Festus Akinboyewa says on X, instead of the labor unions threatening to shut down the whole of Nigeria because of cybersecurity levy, they should work with government to find an alternative, because cyber crimes and cyber attacks are on the rise. And the same people rejecting the levy may lose trillions of naira of their hard-earned money to cyber criminals if cybersecurity is not taken seriously. Just a few days ago, UK's Ministry of Defense was breached. You spoke to that earlier. So are there options? Are there alternatives to the process?
For me, I think the government is desperate around raising money, and they're looking at anywhere,
any which way
they can raise these funds from. There is no doubt in the fact that there is a need for us to look into the cybersecurity space towards ensuring safety. Because it's very crucial, whether we like it or not, we're all moving to that space and we'll be operating on that space. So the security of that space is very important. However, it shouldn't be my responsibility to pay for every transaction. I mean, that's what this is leading to.
Okay, maybe that question is answered by this other contribution on X, and I think it's also from Festus Akinboyewa. And this is probably going to go to you, Mr. Ogunumi. It says, from the provision of Section 44, Sub 3, the contributions to National Cybersecurity Fund is tax exempt and tax deductible. By this provision, the intendment of the law cannot be individuals, but the businesses listed in the second schedule of the Act. The pertinent question is, if individuals are made to pay, how do they aggregate the deductions to take advantage of the tax benefits? Or the businesses will still go ahead to claim the tax benefits after charging individuals?
It's a good question. And to be honest with you, it's one of the things that they need to come out and clarify. There are lots of inconsistencies within the Act. And they need to, there needs to be an interpretation of it for everybody to know. Yeah. The Act clearly said, and I quote, that the electronic transactions value by the businesses specified in the second schedule of the Act. We know those businesses.
Not transactions. Businesses, not transactions.
No, it's mentioned transactions.
Oh.
It says equivalent to 0.5% of all electronic transactions valued by the business specified in the second schedule. So we know their transactions, but we also know their business. But the question really is, the banks, what do they do with electronic transactions? So you answer that question. How many banks do we have? Maybe like 20? How many electronic, so to say, transactions would they do sufficient to the point where it's, it carries the mass that with the exemptions, they will pay anything. So they need to tell us really clearly that, oh, you know what, they need to come out. Somebody needs to come out from the NSA's office or the people who drafted the law to say, hey, it doesn't affect your deposit. your deposits are free. But you see, when you begin to look at the exemptions make, talk about salary payments, savings account, intra-bank transfers. So when you begin to look at those exceptions, you realize that no, they're not talking businesses here. They're actually talking about individual transactions.
So how will they know?
Individuals and business transactions in there.
How does that machine or whatever system is put in place know a salary transfer difference?
Those are the operational challenges that you have. So, okay, fine. So, Philip will confirm what I'm saying here. Banks usually have this salad, we call it salary administration. Where corporates or companies are asked to open salary accounts for their staff and all that. So if you have a salary account with the bank can obviously know that any transaction through those accounts are salaries. But if I'm paying my maid, for instance, all right?
That's a salaried account.
If I'm paying salary, okay, how does the bank know that?
They have to put a code.
Do I have to put a code? Or do I have to go open salary account for her?
Well, Mr. Aluku has this email as well. Says the banks have never accepted responsibilities for any cyber crimes. Have you? Well, don't just my money was moved from my account to a betting account. I have never in my life played any of those. The bank declined responsibility, claiming I must have exposed my details or kept my card carelessly. They were able to trace where the money was moved to, but could not retrieve it. I lost that money till today. So do you take responsibility for cyber crimes?
Okay, so first of all, part of what the banks are doing first is
I think before you explain, I think it's a yes or no question first, and then you can explain.
Fine. So why I said this is two-way, depending on who is responsible in terms of how did the attack happen. If it's from the bank's end, the banks take responsibility. But if it's from the customer's end, then it becomes the customer's responsibility. So it's a shared responsibility. Because, for example, if you're not supposed to expose sensitive information, you do. There's no way the bank system will be able to know that the information is being shared. So security on its own is not just one-sided. So while the bank is putting some basic infrastructure in place to secure the transaction, even with that, the attacks can still happen. So when that happens, what happens? So that's why you were asking who takes responsibility. So it's from the bank
will never take responsibility.
No, if the bank's end from this bank system, the bank takes responsibility. But if it's not from the bank's end, it becomes the customer's responsibility.
Okay, let's begin to coast home. You wanted to...
Yes, Mr. Dada.
Yes.
Is this not capable of further alienating the unbanked?
Absolutely. I mean, why should I take my money to where all manner of deductions will go in and, I'm losing money? It's only in Nigeria you keep money in the bank from January to December without touching it, but it will reduce. It will go down. So you keep 1 million in the bank in January, by December you probably be having 600,000 left due to deductions and what have you. So definitely it will discourage people who would probably have loved to go into cashless system and all of that. Now with this, so no, I can't be paying 5 naira per 1,000, so I'll just keep my money, somewhere, or I would deactivate all online transactions. I have to move into the bank and do my transactions. So it's like we're taking steps backwards from the success that we have recorded in terms of the cashless policies. So I think the government should rethink the policy. They can still raise this money, but not by taxing everybody in sight, for transactions. It's important for us to emphasize that yes, there's a need for us to secure our cyberspace, and this has to be funded one way or the other. But that should not be a burden of the depositors or the bank.
Maybe part of the subsidy money that was spent could go to this.
Well,
just a thought.
Mr. Ogunubi, your final thoughts, but I'd like you to speak to the National Cybersecurity Fund in that same section 44. Because essentially what they're saying is that this issue generating concerns is to fund that for the funding of that cybersecurity fund. What alternatives could there be?
Well, I think, like Dada said, it's important to recognize that cybersecurity is real. A lot of people complain today if somebody from China wipes up all your savings or your pension fund, we will blame government for doing nothing. So there's a need for us to secure our cybersecurity, improve the infrastructure, ensure that the banks have a huge backbone to be able to support this. Because look, the bank are spending a lot of money for cybersecurity, a lot. There's no figure on that, but I think conservative estimates put it at somewhere around $200 million a year. Wow. So that's a lot of money that the banks are doing, and you see it every day with your bank app. They are changing this, they are doing that. That's cybersecurity really working. But cybersecurity is more than just bank transactions. It's securing the state itself. It's securing our own infrastructure. It's securing our power systems from being hacked somewhere, some foreign entity. So we need to look broadly at that issue to say, how can we have a sustainable funding of this? And I think one way to look at it is already look at those who are spending their money. The banks, they're spending a heck of a lot of money on it. So the question is, how can the government come and support them? So that instead of spending that money, because they're doing it individually for their own systems. So can we have a national cybersecurity strategy where they can channel a percentage of that flow into that pool, and then we can use that pool to be able to improve security for everybody so that the banks don't have to spend that much?
Okay. Well, Mr.
Philip.
Yes. The issue is of trust. One of the main issues here is of trust. If you look at the list of deductions that Nigerians already pay, it is a lot. And sometimes you look at your bank balance and you're wondering, who did I give 2 naira 25 kobo to? Who did I transfer 6 naira 84 kobo to? And all of those things. Perhaps it's that what Nigerians have often called secret charging. There is also a problem. Now you're bringing another one. So what communication should be going from who to the Nigerian to let them know that to be able to build and instill trust in the system?
First, it has to start with an awareness on what seeks to be achieved, basically in terms of the funding. Now, there's already a lot of charges. Like you mentioned, there should be an alternative. Even with the alternative, they have to bring like the benefit. What is the cost benefit of, okay, this is what we are using for, this is how to benefit the citizen. And they will see how to bring value to the citizens, one. Then secondly, to also improve the economy in terms of how a lot of people will have trust in the digital system. And what that means, it will also increase financial inclusion. And when that happens, it has an impact in financial transaction. Then the third thing is utilization, properly utilized for the purpose which it should be meant for. Like you mentioned, there's no doubt that there has to be a kind of alternative to how this thing should be funded. Like you talked about, the banks, for example, are doing a lot, but the truth of the matter, some others are unable to do this because of the financial implication. But if we have things like a national SOC, meaning Security Operations Center, National Threat Intelligence Center, where all of these institutions by default, so you are coming in, if you are not plugged into all of this security architecture, you are unable to do financial transaction. What that means is that it will reduce the number of attacks, improve customers' confidence, build trust. And if all of these things are looked at, maybe later and you want to do some other things, customer will not necessarily raise arbitration costs. Why? They've seen over time that they reduce their losses, they've not lost money, and they have confidence in the system, and they can trust what the government is doing, and that would be a good long.
Thank you. The long and short of this is that, yes, our cyberspace needs attention, and yes, it needs money to get it secure, but who is supposed to pay for it? Should the customers be the ones to pay for it?
The president. Or the president, just asking. That's what...
Thank you very much for coming and sharing your time with us this morning. I mean, we have learned a lot from this discussion. Mr. Yinka Ogunubi, financial analyst, Mr. David Dada, founder, Digital Tribes Technology, and Mr. Philip Iwekoy, Chief Information Security Officer, Data Protection Officer at MPF Microfinance Bank. Thank you all very much for sharing your time with us this morning and agreeing to come and educate us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Sunrise will return in just a moment, and we'll be talking about the rains. They are already upon us.
Your guy, see how sweet they like beans and rice. And the people, I will never leave your side. I will never ever. I dedicate my time forever, time to you, my people. Even if the road be rough, I know mine. 'Cause together we shall stand.
Make we all come out on election day and vote Olumide Osaigbovo Akpata, Una guy, as governor of Edo State. He ready to change our story and bring better life for we and our pikin them. Vote Labour Party, the party for Papa, Mama and pikin. Make we vote well, oh, Oludi, confirm. Now you be our guy. Labour Party, forward ever.
Imagine lovely meals you can cook with these ingredients. You spend heavily, but no guarantee of a tasty meal. Not making a right choice of seasoning cube can ruin your meal, money, and confidence. For a tasty meal, do not compromise. Choose Gold.
Use Terra Gold for the rich, consistent taste your loved ones crave for. Good for soups, stews, and jollof. Terra Gold. One cube, endless possibilities.
The Duchess International Hospital caters to every aspect of a family's health needs. A one-stop shop for maternity and child health services, emergency medicine and critical care, medical and surgical subspecialties, dental and eye care, and a range of other subspecialties and services, all available at a single location right here in the heart of Ikeja. And it really doesn't matter if you're paying out of pocket using your HMO or private insurance. We focus completely on providing that world-class affordable healthcare for all the family at all times.
Rain, rain, go out. No.
Come again another day.
English. This rain is not going away. That's the thing. You know, the rains are a part of our lives, so there really isn't anything we can do about it. However, we can ensure that the consequences of the rains don't get us in the wrong places. As far back as February this year, the NIMET, Nigeria Meteorological Agency, released the 2024 seasonal climate prediction, forecasting a late onset of rain across the country. Now,
Late onset?
yes.
It's come already.
Well, then. Okay. So, the forecast projected that the rains may be delayed in some states, but the coastal areas will still experience flooding. Blocked drains, especially in areas where flood waters easily accumulate and generate a strong force, should be cleared and subsequently kept free. These and other measures must be taken to minimize our individual and collective vulnerability. These are the things that we have told us as far back as February this year. What all of this is about, let's have conversations with Mr. Ola Oresanya, Commissioner for Environment in Ogun State. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We also have in our Abuja studio two gentlemen, Professor Shola Adepoju, former DG Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria, and sitting beside him is Mr. Engineer Clement Nze, who is the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency's Director. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Okay.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. So let me begin with you, Mr. Oresanya. We know the projection or prediction of NIMET. What is the prediction for Ogun State?
Yes, thank you.
Because, you know, I mean, I'm sure you probably understand why I say that.
Yes.
That's that flood release and all of those things.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, it starts from the national prediction, so we have to domesticate the national predictions. So, and from the meteorological reports and from the hydrological agency reports. For Ogun State, yes, about 16 of our local governments are going to be so vulnerable. They're going to have a high impact of flood. And our own season will start, we're supposed to have started by March, and it will last to December. So that we're going to have like about 259 days of rain in the upland area, and in the lower and the coastal area of the states, it will grow longer, so almost like about 280 or 200-something days. So for us in Ogun State, yes, we have two patterns of flood that we may expect, and that means we have the inland flood coming, we call that the flash flood. The northern part of the state is prone to that because of the hilly areas that we have in the northern part of the state. So we're going to have, from the torrential rain, we're going to have the runoffs, upstream, downstream. It's going to be very abrasive, and we're going to have more of erosion than stagnated pond of water called flood. But in the southern part of the state, which has mainly the coastal towns in the state, towards the end of the year, maybe from September and October and November, we're going to have what we call the coastal flooding. And the coastal flooding will be aggravated with a high tide that we are going to have around that time, especially around October, between the last week of September and the first week of October. We're likely to have the seasonal tide will be at the highest level at that time. So we're going to have a kind of a lockdown of a flow of water from upland into the lagoon. So around that time, we expect to have a coastal flooding. But all these are things we can manage, and we already have our plans on how to make sure that we minimize the impact these are going to have on our people, while we take advantage of the positive side of the rain. And we also have a knowledge to inform our people, especially those in the construction industry and the farmers, when to plant, when not to plant, and for those who are in the construction area, when to work and when not to work.
I think the challenge, and I'm glad that you already identified the number of local governments that will be affected by this. Right. I think the challenge would be, what do the people do who live in residential areas that are bound to be flooded?
Well, the first thing is information. You need to know when this will happen, so you need to prepare ahead for it. And the level of preparedness cuts across both the government, the people, and even the community associations. So most of the drainage facilities, they're shared facilities. They're shared facilities. So it's not about an individual preparation. It's a common agenda. That's a government side of it. And on our side, we are working optimally to make sure that we minimize this impact.
Anyway, and there are questions around whether or not houses should have been allowed to be built in those areas in the first place. Don't answer that one yet. I'll come back to you on that one. Right. Let me ask Engineer Zeb. You know, this comes every year. You know, the information comes across to Nigerians, you know, from time to time that these things are going to happen. But, you know, yet floodings still take place. We've heard now what the Ogun State government is doing about it. Do you get the same kind of vibe from the other 35 states in the country?
Thank you so much for the question. And I must say that I'm impressed with what the commissioner from Ogun State is saying or has said with regards to what the state is doing. It shows that the state is conversant with the implications of the predictions made, one, by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, in February, and the one that was made by the Nigerian Hydrological Service Agency on the 16th of April. Like he rightly mentioned, the number of local government areas in the state that have been placed on red alert. Now, are the states responding? I think the message being passed by the predicting or forecasting agencies, the message is getting some level of traction. I mean, some level of attention from the subnationals. I am aware of what other states are doing. If you go to Jigawa State, the government is doing a lot to ensure that disaster that usually associate or go along with flooding will not occur in Jigawa State. Lagos has been on the news as well. Though the commissioner that I listened to some time ago talked about they're not demolishing, that they are removing structures. Some of them are within the canals, I mean the channels, the drainage canals. Action is taking place in many states. I'm sure what happened in Abia State too. And so on and so forth. The FCT has been a landmark example of getting prepared once they receive the advisories from NIMET and NISA. So I'm saying that there is a high level, a high degree of improvement by the states in terms of responding to the weather advisories to forestall any incident of a disaster that might occur. As for issue of flooding, is taken. So long as there is rainfall input, you can expect flooding at any point in time. But what we try to avoid or minimize is the disaster that is associated with flooding across the country. So there is a high level of response, preparedness, being shown by a number of states in Nigeria to ensure that the citizens become safe in the course of flooding in 2024.
How pleased are you with what is happening in Lagos State at the moment? I'm sure you are following the news about demolitions and all that are going on, you know, because properties were built on floodplains and stuff like that. How pleased are you? And do you see that this is going to ease the flooding that we see in Lagos perennially?
To a large extent, I will say yes, that I'm pleased with the removal or demolition of structures that have been built within the waterways. There are several systems in Lagos, interconnected one way or the other, but then leading eventually to the canal, into the lagoon or Atlantic Ocean. But when there are impediments on the free flow of excess runoff, the government will summon the necessary political will to do that. Then we come back to another issue. Who issued the permit to build on such structures? They were not built overnight. We had town planning authorities all over the country. And there's some ministers of environment, water resources, and so on and so forth. Or even state emergency management agencies, they all exist. I think what the government should do is to cushion the effect. There should be compensation. Government apparatus, gave approval for such projects to be built. And if at the end of the day, because of so many changes that take place in our environment, climate change, meandering of our rivers, and so on and so forth, and we discover that a place we allocated before for people to build their houses should rather be allocated to flood. Let it be a waterway. There's nothing wrong in government, accepting that they did something in error and then compensate the people whose properties worth millions of naira are being affected. But to have a long-lasting solution, it happened in Abuja around 2005, 2004. I can remember some structures in some streets in Abuja, 2-, 3-story building housing a hospital and other structures. They were all brought down. If you know Federal Ministry of Works in Mabushi, the block A, I think that should be about 4- or 5-story building, is no longer there. What you see is block B. The then Minister of the FCT had to demolish that whole block so as to revert the environment to its original planned use. So, for a long-lasting result, save human lives, it is better to remove such structures. In 2022, which is the highest flooding incident in Nigeria, more than 665 people died due to flood incident. And I think World Bank put the economic loss in that of finance, not less than $6.8 billion, and so on and so forth. Not talk about people who were displaced, people who were injured, and then the gridlock on a major highway like Abuja-Lokoja highway. No movement could take place for weeks. So whatever that could be done to restore the integrity of our environment, I think I support it. At the long run, it will be better for it.
Okay. Well, Prof, let me ask you this, because there are still questions around, and some of the issues that Engineer Nze has raised about government reserving flood areas or flood-prone areas for flooding. We'll come back to that one. How do you think this affects your expertise? You're a former DG of the Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria, so there has to be some kind of correlation that you think people need to understand when we talk about flooding as it affects our forestry or the environment generally.
Thank you. I think the correlation is established already because flooding itself is as a result of too much removal of trees, of vegetation, because the runoff on the earth surface gather its speed from lack of vegetation. So when the vegetation is not there, the rainfall gather its strength and speed and become to cause what we call erosion, and then turn to flood and began to cause the havoc that we are talking about. So we have no choice than to go back to repopulating our forest estate. Ogun State is lucky, and I think they've been quite conversant with the implication of lack of forest or vegetation. Ogun State hosts the first man and biosphere site Nigeria has since 1977, which is on a biosphere reserve. They're also the only state, I think, I wouldn't know whether any other state has joined them, that has a whole ministry for forestry, knowing the importance of having forestry
well managed in a state. And that's why you could talk about, the commissioner could talk about having 2 patterns of rain in their state. And until we embrace increasing our forest estate, we'll continue to talk about flooding and this water runoff, because once you have the forest estate in place and we are satisfying the requirement of the United Nations that we should have at least minimum of 25% forest cover, not only of our country alone, even a state should be working towards having its minimum at least of 25%. We're not saying you should stop at 25. There's nothing wrong in having even up to 40%. And we are always thinking when we want to have urban, there's urban forestry also, that you are developing a town into a city of a state has not stopped us from also planting up the state or the capital. Having trees around your houses, in the avenue, in the median of the road, all of this contribute to improving the climate resilience of our environment, and also reduce the rate and speed with which this rainwater turn to erosion and flooding and begin to rain havoc upon our people. So until we begin to go back to the basis and meeting the requirement as stipulated by United Nations, then we cannot end this discussion on flooding and the havoc associated with it. Thank you.
Prof, sorry, to quickly follow up on what you said about forest estates and all, exactly what is it that informs eroding our forest reserves? Is it that the state plans are eroded by state officials? What exactly do you think is responsible for that one, where we now have flooding, trees being felled? When, I don't know, talk to us about what has happened over time and how we can put pay to them.
We're all guilty of it. The state is guilty of it. The communities around this forest are also guilty of it. And also the policy makers are also guilty of it. I will take the Ogun State we're talking about as an example. In Omobaswe Reserve, I think in an attempt for states to sustain their revenue generation, you find the sawmillers that we call loggers who claim to have one allocation or the other. I know the state is working on how to put an end to that, but as I speak, you can't go to Omobaswe Reserve without finding there are trucks around, and some of them work illegally even at night. Do all of these atrocities at night, and before morning, they have chartered away a lot of logs in the forest estate there. In the process of doing that, they also poach on our animals, which is also not a good testimony of that environment. So the state also had to put their enforcement actors on their ears to do what is necessary. If you go around Ogiri area through to Lagos area there, you find a lot of these containers who are probably logged at night, and also some of the logs you find there are not even from Ogun State, but they find the sawmills there closer to the port, where they bring even log of woods from even northern part of the country. But they find it easier to sort to the size required around Ogun State. So all actors are one blame or the other, but I think Ogun State are always willing to listen to expertise advice, and I'm using this opportunity to also plead with the commissioner, who is also here with us, that we can do better, because that Omobaswe Reserve is the pride of the country, and UNESCO is excited about what we're doing there. That's the only forest where you can still find over 50 wild elephants roaming in that forest. You can still find pythons roaming freely in the place. Remember, we have a rule in the forest that they have the right of way. You cannot take any life of any wild animal where you're in their domain, because you are the one intruding into their environment. So all of us have one role or the other to play, but as I speak to you, we are not protecting our forest estate one way or the other. Either the state is thinking of making or generating revenue from it, or those who are supposed to be repopulating the forest probably are also not getting adequate funding to do that. And also those who are living on the forest, I'm talking about the sawmillers and the loggers, are also making up one way or the other to make sure they sustain their livelihood. So we all have to come back to the drawing board, sit together and find a better way to manage our forest estate, because we're depleting. Last year I spoke with you, I said we're about 7.6. As I speak to you now, I'm not sure we're up to 5% forest cover in this country. Thank you.
Prof, just staying with you for just a moment. How is the tree planting campaign going?
You see, tree planting campaign to us in the discipline, we don't find it as the important aspect of planting trees, because planting trees alone is just about 10% of the process. When there's no follow-up management of that tree you planted for at least 3 to 4 years, it's not going to survive. Even with the expert, when we plant 1 hectare, we have what we call a dieback of about 10% that we'll still have to go back and do what we call beating up. That's filling the gap of those that you planted and that died, and you replant them again to make sure that you are fairly 90-something% at the end of the day that survive the planting. But when we do tree planting campaign, we just the euphoria, everybody gather, we plant the trees and walk away. Who is going to manage what you planted? Who is going to survive what you plant? Okay. I mean, what you have planted, because adequate watering, what we call ring weeding of this plant, and beating up and all of this need to follow up. And the cost of managing a single tree after planting to survivor is almost 90% of the cost of planting.
Okay.
So it's not just planting and walking away. You need to manage that particular tree for 3 to 4 years. When it's stable, then you can walk away.
Well, you know, interestingly, part of the issues that have been raised is that of our own discipline or a lack of it. You know, Victor Owo on Twitter is saying, well, on X says, there should be serious fines charged to food vendors in our street corners. They sell noodles and eggs and throw all their waste inside the gutters as the drainage. I still saw 2 spots this morning, and I know they did it because their stands are close by. This must stop. Let me ask you, how do you deal with such issues? I'm sorry, Sonia.
Well, I think that's got to do with community lifestyle and kind of urbanization that we have. And yes, it's not very good for us. I'm a manager of the environment, and I think these are some of the challenges, the informal settlers that you see around the corners. So, what to do for such? All right, it's like a kind of an enforcement. You have to coerce them to comply to the normal thing. So, you have a kind of a bin that you put in the community for them, where they can actually take their waste and dump it in bin. And that will be the condition under which will permit them to stay there. All right, so it's a very tough one to manage the informal settlers, and they have a right to be in the town. So do what they have to do. You compel them to have containers or to have trash bags. You give them trash bags, and they move it to the containers where they have to put it. So we just have to care for them.
Okay.
Mr. Nze, I'm sure I have asked you this question before. In many climes, people don't step out of their houses until after they have heard the weather report. Has your agency considered giving us a daily weather report? Mr. Nze, did you hear me?
No.
Has your agency considered giving Nigerians a daily weather or hourly weather report?
Okay. Thank you so much. We have worked on that so that no matter where you are in the country, you will be able to get daily information with regards to flooding. Currently, I'm sure, I know that the Nigerian Meteorological Agency is doing that, giving daily weather reports.
What agency,
but
please?
On our own part, as the agency in charge of flood forecasting or prediction, our app has not been properly or fully developed. We are working on that. So that no matter where you are, no matter the type of cell phone you have, whether Android or these very low ones, no matter the community where you are, so long as there is network, you could be able to access information. So to answer your question, yes, we have considered giving a daily information with regard to flooding. But take note, the issue of flood doesn't occur all year round. It is from the onset of rainy season or when the rainy season has been established across the country or in some locations, the ground being saturated that you can talk of flooding. Unlike other weather parameters like maybe temperature, humidity, all kinds of things that are on daily basis. So the agency is already working on that. And I hope that before the end of the year, we'll be able to develop it properly and launch it.
All right. Well, engineers, at least you answered for NIMET one way or the other, because your agency is to give information about flooding, and you said NIMET is to give the weather reports. But what my colleague the point she's making is that it's not as popular as it should be, because hardly, I don't know if of anyone who gets those things, unless they have smart devices that can give them the daily weather reports. I don't even know whether or not we take them seriously. But let me ask, Prof, one more time about this particular one. Most of our forest reserves and all, they are more in the local areas. They are more in the rural areas, the hinterlands and the rest of them. Are we conversing with them enough to be able to defend these things when poachers come?
Thank you. What we do now is to change our approach to this rural reserve that you talk about. And what we do there now is to start planting those tree crop or tree that the rural communities has a relationship with, what we call socio-cultural relationship. Either it's a cultural plant or it's a socio-economic plant that they want to raise, that they wouldn't want anybody to tamper with, so that independent of our involvement, they have this commitment to protect it because it's benefiting them either culturally or economically. And I'll give you an example. We went to a community at a time to establish a plantation. And I told my boss that asked us to go and plant there that, okay, what we're going to do is to take 10 different seedlings to that community and we'll leave it at the village square. So we went to that community in Okpoma, Cross River State. We left the 10 species of seedlings in the village square. And he was wondering what I want to do with that experiment. I said tomorrow morning I will explain better to him. When we came the following morning, we realized that the only seedling that was taken away from that village square was the Jatrova cactus. And he was angry, thinking his people are not represented in well. And I said, no, they've just passed our exam. That tells us that the only species they're interested in that village is Jatrova cactus, and that's what we're going to plant in that community that they can protect. Any other thing other than that. So what we do is that we don't impose any species or seedling on any community again. If you want them to nurture and protect and defend it, plant what they want and what they can benefit from. And that's the approach we're adopting now.
That's a smart way to go about it. But let me ask you, Mr. Oresanya, you spoke about some communities that are likely to be affected by some kinds of flooding later on in the year. What would be your message to them now? Or which are these communities, if you can mention, if you will have about 45 seconds? And what would you be saying to them now in preparation?
Oh, yes. The first thing is that I will encourage them to listen to our weekly advisory on rainfall pattern.
Where?
It's on our radio programs. Okay. In Abeokuta, we have on our OGBC between 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday and 11 o'clock. We give this out, and we give this advice. So we have a database of all the CDAs in Ogun State, and we send them a message almost on a weekly basis to the CDA chairman to disseminate this information among the people. So they should listen to their city and their communities and listen to this radio program, or go to our website, the Ogun State Ministry of Environment website, and we have this information on weekly basis. Yeah. And this precision are usually very high. Then the Farmers Association, they should clean up. I mean, they should work closely with us. We are working with the Ministry of Agric in that area. So information is the first thing. Then removing encumbrances from the community drainage. The CDAs should work together with the residents, and this is the time to work. We continue on our own part to make sure the primary trunks and secondary trunks are opened. We continue to dredge, but the tertiary trunks, which is the gutter in front of the houses, the community, the CDAs should work with their people to make sure they clean it up right now. And those who are in the coastal areas of the state, they should listen to us. We'll let them know when water will come. And we are working with the Ogun River Basin Authority closely to make sure that the water from that dam will not be released maximally during the high tide. Okay. So we are synchronizing this effectively now.
Well, it's quite a lot to swallow, and I hope that they are listening to you right now. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Well, just this one comment from Onoja. So most of the actions on environmental protection start and end at the policy levels in the states and at the federal levels. Taking practical actions up to community levels holds the key to environmental resilience, and I think you and the Prof have spoken to that one. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Sola Resenya is Commissioner for the Environment in Ogun State. Professor Shola Adepoju, former DG, Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria, and Engineer Clement Nze is from the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you. Our pleasure, please.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
All right. So up next, we're still talking about the environment one way or the other, but this time a focus on Lagos. Let's stay with us.
Unwrap joy, unleash taste.
Delboro Lagos, ultimate sophistication.
Do you know that you can now print all your essential items for events without even having to leave your home? It's the Cast Print Combo Deal for all events.
Yes!
Weddings, conferences, birthdays, burials, etc. Starting from 495,000 Naira only. You get 50 invites, 50 A2 size posters, 50 16-page brochures, 1 large backdrop banner, 1 roll-up banner, 50 jotters with pens, and 50 souvenir carrier bags. Whatever event you're planning, we can adjust to your budget and quantities. Just send your pictures and other information through WhatsApp, and we shall send a design for your approval. Approve your design, and we will produce produce with super high quality digital print technology. We can even arrange delivery to your location. Call us now on 0913-156-5016 or 0812-794-9323 or visit our social media pages. Cast Prints, digital printing at super speed.
The chairman and members of the Central Planning Committee announced the installation of His Excellency Dr. Ademola Jackson Nuruddin Adeleke as the new Ashiwaju of Edeland and launching of an ultra-modern palace square for the team of Edeland. Royal Father of the Day is Imperial Majesty Oni Adeyeye Enito Ogunwusi Ojaja II. Royal Host is Royal Majesty Oba Dr. Muniruddin Adesholalawa Laminisa I, the team of Ede. Chairman of the Day Chief Launcher is Nigeria's business mogul Alhaji Aliko Dangote.
Chief Mrs. Victoria Ademola Samson Mama Bovas is the co-launcher.
Former President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Chief Olusegun Obasanjo is the father of the day, while Nigeria's businesswoman and philanthropist Mrs. Florence Alakija is the mother of the day. His Excellency Engineer Seyi Makinde, the Executive Governor of Oyo State, is the host governor, while the Chairman, CEO, Pacific Holdings Limited, and President Adeleke University, Ede, Dr. Adedeji Adeleke, will be playing host to the array of dignitaries from all walks of life. Date, Monday, 13th May, 2024. Venue, Timi Palace Square, Ojatimi, Ede. Time, 10 o'clock in the morning. Join us in celebrating His Excellency Senator Dr. Ademola Jackson Nuruddin Adeleke as he becomes the new Ashiwaju of Edeland. Announcer, Central Planning Committee.
Thank you for staying with us.
Don't dare.
I shall keep our secret. Yes. For weeks now, stories of demolition of properties in Lagos have been trending.
That one, you can trend it.
In fact, for years, this has been a very touchy issue. Many blame the government for allowing these properties to be developed before being demolished, while others say developers are the ones who are guilty. But while the blame game is ongoing, many people have lost valuables, they've lost money, they've lost their life savings. Look at what happened at the Mende Villas during the week. They say that those properties were built by a developer. Anyway, what do I know? We have the commissioner, the Lagos State Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development with us this morning, Engineer Oluyinka Olumide. Good morning.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure.
Let's begin by saying well done.
Right now, I wouldn't like to be in your shoes. Neither would I like to be in the shoes of the Commissioner for the Environment. I think the two of you right now are the most unpopular people in Lagos.
No, please, put it this way. PE1. PE1.
What is PE1?
Public enemy number one.
So, Mr. Commissioner, this master plan of Lagos that you all are now bringing back, it seems, because there have been a number of years where developers, homeowners just did exactly what they wanted. What went wrong that they were able to do that? And some of those properties have been standing for 10, 15 years, and you all now wake up that this is not in the master plan, it's got to go.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Let me first start by saying that plans are made for certain period of times. When you have modern city plans prepared for an area, it runs for probably between 10 to 20 years. And we are saddled with the responsibility of ensuring the production of those plans, as well as monitoring the compliance. However, you find cases that a lot of people deliberately or otherwise, just on their own, decides to do whatever they think is suitable for them, which unfortunately is quite wrong. And we have the responsibility to ensure that plans are produced for benefit of people and that we oversee the control. However, if you look at Lagos, what we have now in terms of monitoring, We have offices in all the 57 LCDAs in Lagos. And if you take, for example, Ibejuleki now, you have one office there, you know. It will be practically difficult for that office to oversee the whole of the area. And the next phase we are looking at now, it's having as many as possible, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on the area, offices. Almost like what NEPA is doing. You agree with me that you cannot have one NEPA office in a local government. No. That would be completely chaotic. So for them to be able to have outreach, there are as many as possible. So, and that's why they're able to go out. If you don't pay on time, your lines will be disconnected. So that's the kind of thing we are moving on in the next phase now. However, in terms of violation, a lot has to do with people. Apart from individual, which I must confess, maybe the awareness is not fully total in terms of people knowing the importance of building planning permit approval. Now, for the estate developers, they cannot claim ignorance of that. That's not possible. However, what we have seen over time is that approvals are granted and deliberately they go beyond their bound in terms of the surveyed plan. Like in the case of Mende, which is also very, very common with the developers, especially those of them that are very close to canal areas, of the feeling that, okay, this is a loose land and, you know, so a layout approved for like maybe 30 units, you know, they will now want to expand by adding 1 or 2 or 3, you know, there. And of course, I can't rule out a compromise on our staff. And we've started very aggressively on that now. Very, very serious. Just 2 days ago, we are discussing with LBS in terms of ethical value and leadership models to be able to upscale them so that they'll be able to distinguish between right and wrong, you know. That we've observed was lacking. No, but the important thing is that a wrong is always a wrong. Okay, and we must right them. And that's why we are going out now very aggressively that, look, it's a joint collaboration. The efforts we are putting there is not only for the benefits of the government, it's also for their own benefit to ensure that they have a befitting
environment.
Yes.
You know, and I like the fact that the government is now looking at ensuring that its own staff, taking responsibility is not to be taken lightly. And we have to applaud your government for your administration or your authorities for taking responsibility for some of these things. It is not something to be taken lightly, and it is admirable and appreciated. But how many people have been terminated? How many of them have had their appointments terminated as a result of this?
Or have been disciplined.
Or disciplined in any way. Because their error, to them is an error, has cost many other people billions.
Life savings.
Life savings, lives, health, and all of those things. So how many people have been penalized as a result of that kind of activity?
You must agree with me that in government, we don't just lay off people. You know, there are processes
the processes.
Queries are issued, you answer. To some level, panels are set up, and right now, as I speak, we have about 3 cases under investigation. You know, we have about 3 cases, and the result of the investigation will determine the course of action, whether it's going to be demotion, whether it's going to be instant dismissal, or whatever. We have 3 cases that are ongoing.
How many people are involved in the 30 cases?
Come again?
How many people are involved?
Normally, whoever is the head takes absolute responsibility.
Okay.
In the course of answering the query or facing the panel, there may be other lower names that may come up, but the leader takes the lead in that case.
Okay. Now, you cited, you cited the case of, Mende and all of that.
Yes.
How did those things happen? I saw that video, Halera and I were discussing it earlier. where the commissioner for the environment was asking whether they had certain papers. And a good number of them were saying that they didn't have those papers, including the chairman of the association.
In fact, they couldn't answer.
They couldn't even answer, yes. And all those things. So how did those happen? They didn't just start yesterday. They didn't start in this administration. I dare say they didn't even start in this republic.
Yes.
They started way back.
Yes.
How did those things happen?
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, prior to 2022, June, July, realizing the enormity of the challenge we are facing here, the governor of Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu now made a serious effort to ensure that the building control agencies is heavily fortified. Right now, we have 80 armed mobile policemen in that unit. Now, prior to that, I must tell you, it's extremely, very, very difficult. And believe you me, there is nowhere in Lagos you probably do any construction that officers will not be there as a way of serving a caution notice or thereabout. Either you have from LASPA, that's the planning permit, or building control, LAPSCA, or the material testing, who are there to verify the standard and quality of what is being done, or the safety commission. Now, the challenge has been that notices are served at infancy level. If they are lucky, and when they go out to serve this notice, they'll probably go maybe 1 or 2 officers. And what you find on site is a band of Omonile and all the likes. You know, we harass them. Sometimes the officers are injured by way of attack and things like that. It's only from, like I said, July 2022 that we have a full-fledged agency that can now face. Even 2 weeks ago, myself and some team, we went around Ibejuleki Ekpe, and we got to a site that has 2 policemen as security there. And he was trying to stop us from going in until my own policemen got in there. So you can imagine that kind of thing when an officer, 2 or 3 of them, go to a place. It will be pretty difficult for them to do any enforcement. And that is what has been happening then. Because then the power to demolish was very, very limited. Because we don't have demolition agency then. And when we have contraventions like that, we have to write up to the governor before it's approved, before you go and get demolition bulldozers and things like that. But right now, we have everything. We can take full charge. We can take full control. And that's why we are going now very seriously outside. And good enough, that's why we have, it took me a lot of time. And I must thank the ESCO for approving the amnesty period for people. Because what we have from lands, you have about around 500,000 that have been issued in terms of consent of CFO. Now, in terms of approval that we have issued, it's far, far from there. Last year alone, we got about 7,877 applications, people seeking approval, out of which about 5,864 were granted approval for the whole of the state. So if you want to interpolate now, you say, okay, let's say roughly 6,000 per annum for 20 years. That's 120,000 out of 500,000. You can see the gap. That's about 20-25% thereabout. Now, right now, we have a drone capture of the whole of Lagos State. We know all the buildings that are on the state, and we can determine from our record those of them with approval, those of them without approval. That's why they have this opportunity now, because there is no way you can run to now. The system we have now can capture real time. If you drop a load of granite in your site 10 p.m. on a particular date, we will know, because we have 24/7 drone capturing. We will know, so nothing can be hidden now. Because you want to come for approval and you are presenting a fully developed building as if you are just starting, we will know.
Mr. Lumide.
Thanks.
I will assume, therefore, since you have a drone that captures everything, I will assume, therefore, that you are aware of the piece of land between Marwa and Freedom Way in Lekki and the area which is designated in the master plan as the green area, and some people trying to appropriate the land now, and they've got 15 policemen stationed there permanently to prevent anybody from talking to them at all.
And that anybody includes government?
No, it cannot be. I mean, you know it cannot be.
But we have raised this issue before, and they are still there.
They will
We
be.
spoke about it two weeks
taken.
ago.
You will agree with me that what the environment is doing now in terms of cleanup of Lagos, at appropriate time, we will clear them. They cannot be bigger than the law. That's clear. They cannot be bigger than the law. I went on inspection 2 weeks ago. I saw what they are doing around the police stations and formations. It's completely out of law. Because you are police station or whatever, you now build shanties in front. No, we are going to approach them. And we are writing to the Commissioner of Police. They have to clear up. It doesn't befit the environment. Nobody is bigger than the law. The law is clear.
So what about the buildings at Ibejuleki that you spoke about?
These are estate land, and it's a pity, and it's very good for us that we are taking the stand very early now. Because before you do a development of a building within an estate, whoever is the developer either is getting the land allocation from government, from NTDA, or you are buying from the Omoniles. You first must clear the land use purpose for that land. That's the starting point. Before you purchase your land, you have to clear from land that is this property designated for this right purpose. Mm-hmm. If it is agreed and you buy it for development, you cannot get approval.
Okay, the ones in Ibejuleki, yes, we understand are agricultural land.
Most of them are agric land. And by virtue of that,
you're going to remove all those.
Hold on, the removal is not just like that. They can request for change. Plans are dynamic. From time to time, we review. But the fact as at now is that what those lands are designated for is not the purpose for what they are intending to do now. And for that purpose, they cannot get approval. And what the law says is that for estate land, you first must get your layout approval. Even land that are given on extension to families, you must get approval of the layout from the ministry, and we have a department for that, development matters. We grant the layout approval. Before you now approach last part, that's planning permit authority, to get individual approval for all those buildings. Now, on their own, they have divided into plots, even sometimes as small as 200 square meter. And now they are selling. In some cases, they are even finished selling. Our brothers in diaspora sending in money for something they don't know. By the time they come to build now, there will be problem. And that's why we are starting now at the infancy level to stop them, because they cannot get approval for those lands.
Let me ask you something.
A lot of trees in areas such as Ikoyi have been cut down. Is that with the approval of the state?
No individual has the right to cut down any trees. No. No individual has right. However, if I guess where you are going, you probably want to compare Ikoyi of today with Ikoyi of 30 years back. Now, like we said, planning itself is dynamic. It moves with time, and we have to respond. Like I said, development plans within an area are reviewed over time. Now, the scheme in Victoria and Ikoyi is being reviewed. So, when you have that kind of revision, you can see now that we have road expansion in the whole of Ikoyi. Mm-hmm. You have street lights that are being worked on now, and we are also planning for water. So when you have development like this, some area will probably have to go in terms of greens. But however, whatever we are doing, because you cannot say you are planning a city without recognition for nature.
Yeah.
They are always done in a recognition of nature. Because those are things that will enhance the value of even what we are developing.
Abiodun Karim is asking you, says we should ask you. I don't know. He wants to ask you. The Commissioner for Physical Planning, those buildings around waterways marked for removal, particularly within Apapa, when are they going to carry out the task? A building inside Apapa local government that was built with taxpayers' money, I think he wants to say, how will this be managed?
Which taxpayer money? Is it a government?
Well, Abionu Karim, you may have to explain whether it's a government building, but you said that there are some buildings that were marked.
Okay. Now, I'm happy that somebody has confirmed to the fact that the building is marked. By the time they go there now to remove, they will say they are not giving notice. There is a procedure, approved procedure, that we follow in the process of removal. We don't just go to a place and remove. We go there and serve you notice and expect you to respond. And in your response, we look at it. If it is something that can still be managed in terms of, okay, remove this, do that, fine. If it is not, we'll give you notice that, please, this cannot stay, and we will remove it. You heard what the Commissioner for Environment said. The discourse started as far back as November last year. And they got here, we're in May now, and they got here in May, and they are still saying that they are not giving notice.
No, in fact,
that's not possible.
He said it was Tunji Bello, when he was Commissioner for the Environment, who gave them notice.
We don't just go there. And moreover, in the ministry, we have appeals committee, which we are even appealing now to be made a tribunal, so that it's completely off the ministry. That if you are dissatisfied in any way, you can approach them. They've had cases that they've treated that we've been found guilty, and we made the necessary compensation in terms of putting the person back.
Talking about compensation, Sonoja is asking, during the Mende demolitions, the Lagos State officer cited 1974 plans, where a property is built after due approvals by the Building Control Agency, who are representatives of the state. Should demolitions be effected with due compensation?
Now, you agree with me that either YX certificate or diploma or BSc is always there, that you don't alter anything. If your name is Olatunde and the road's Olutunde, and you think you can just put that U to A, you have rendered that certificate useless, invalid. And in the approval that we give, if you read through, it's there that you have to develop or build according to what you have in that approval. If you've done any alteration there, you have rendered that approval invalid.
So you have to start afresh.
Now when you extend beyond your plot line, you of course render that approval useless. And when we come there, and that's what the environment is saying, that they don't demolish, they remove. The areas of your encroachment, they just remove it, or we get there and we remove it peacefully for you.
Remove?
Yes.
Peacefully?
Yes, peacefully.
Okay.
But
let me ask
with
you
a bulldozer, it's peacefully, Mr. With a bulldozer, it's peacefully.
Because you may not use, it might not be possible to use hand to remove. So you need some tools. Okay. And that tool happens to be a machine.
Okay.
However,
let me ask you this. Okay.
However, if we have a building that has full approval and everything in there is complied with, and by our own way, it has to be removed, we pay full compensation. Okay. For example, on right of way, if you are doing roads and you have legitimate approval, and we get to a place and not of your own error, we'll pay full compensation.
Let me ask you this.
And we even engage them before that in public interest.
Engineer, let me ask you these two difficult questions. Number one, from what you know in terms of physical planning and urban development, what is the capacity of human beings that Lagos State should be able to contain? Secondly, what's the percentage of Lagos State where the infrastructure is illegal? Illegal, that they are, okay. the infrastructure is occupying land in Lagos illegally. What's the percentage?
Well, it would be difficult to give you that.
That's why I say it's a difficult question.
Yeah, but the first one, regarding manpower, we have very, very competent and capable officers. The slight challenge is capacity. Like I said before, we have offices in all the 57 LCD areas. However, I don't think they are enough. And we've started...
No. I'm talking about the population that Lagos State can physically plan for. Yes, and conveniently contain. We have about between 20 and 22 million naira now. 20 and 22 million people now. Yeah. What's the average that, realistically speaking, Lagos should be able to take?
Well, they said the reward of hard work is more work. In Lagos, yeah, we are condemned to do good, and you agree with me that. Especially this administration, we've been doing a lot in terms of infrastructural development and upliftment. However, once this is done, you have influx of people. Ogun State Commissioner just left here. There is virtually no boundary or border between Ogun and Lagos. Somebody wakes up in Nasarawa today, is coming to Lagos. It's just a matter of to enter the bus. I mean, statistically, if you look at it, if you have, there are about 160-something universities in this country. Let's say it's about 3,000. 3 times 150, that's 450. Let's say a total of about 700,000, including Polytechnic, in a year, graduates pushed out. Believe you me, not less than 60% will be in Lagos.
Is Lagos capable? I'm talking about the land space.
Yes.
Human habitation.
Yes.
How many people should Lagos be able to take? Is Lagos overstretched now in terms of infrastructure? Those are the questions I'm asking.
Well, we are, quite frankly, we are getting to that stage now.
Of being overstretched?
Yes, we are getting to that stage now. Because, for example, if you take transportation, if you look in the morning, from Otedola Bridge here down to Lekki Toll Gate, virtually you see bumper to bumper. That is a signal, one of the things that we can use, of influx of people moving to the island. Now, as it affects building, even from the rates you charge, you can also assess that. From the ways tenants bombard the landlord, you can also assess that.
Okay, well.
From the way applications that are being submitted on a daily basis, you can also get that. We are getting to that stage now, but we have to keep, and that's why the new plans that we're having now, they are changing. And that's why you can see Ikoyi, before you have a house in 1 acre of land, you probably cannot have that one again. You have high-rises now. So we have to continuously respond to that.
Okay.
All we can say is Ekushe. The Lagos State Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development, Engineer Oluyinka Olumide.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
More grease to your elbow, and may the Lord be with you.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Sunrise will continue in just a moment. Stay with us.
Sweet oh, eat a sweet to drink oh. You go drink clean mouth oh, thinking nobody go know. Now so he be oh, with a side piece oh, pretty with hips to kill oh. Like say nothing is sweet pasa. Back over me oh, because I know fit oh. If I fall for this oh, wahala go there. Or suddenly, oh, but eventually, oh, my thing go back. This is an emergency, no best solution. Speedily, I'll be foolish to think I can handle it. Flooding my body, oh. This is an emergency, no best solution. Accordingly, no go they think you can handle it. It's all over, Bruce Lee, oh. David fought many battles in his life, but none of them was in his own house. None of them was in his own house. Then he go carry who no be him wife. All of a sudden, small, family started. I'm not the time. Absalom kill Amnon, kill him brother, run away. Then he return, they drag throne with daddy, wage war with daddy, chaos for fun. This is an emergency, for best episode, speedily. I'll be foolish to think I can handle it. Blood take my body, take my body. This is an emergency, you're the best episode, accordingly. No go they think you can handle it. It's all over Bruce Lee, body no be firewood, though. Make you no go near fire, even if you there for quiet. Body no be firewood, though. An emergency, mobile service speedily. I'll be foolish to think I can handle it. Blood take my body, This is an emergency, mobile service accordingly. Don't go they think you can handle it. It's all over Bruce Lee. This is an emergency, mobile service speedily. I'll be foolish to think I can handle it. Blood take my body, This is an emergency.
Yeah, the impact of family dynamics. What kind of family dynamic do you have, positive or negative? We understand that negative family dynamics such as conflict, neglect, and abuse can lead to psychological distress and negative outcomes. And the impact of family dynamics can continue into adulthood. Our relationships with family members can influence our romantic relationships, friendships, and professional relationships. Well, which one do you have, positive or negative? Our guest this morning is going to help us to speak with that. Mr. Deji Shomi is a family systems engineer. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, madam.
First of all, what is family systems engineering? Because we could easily have called you Engineer Deji Shomi.
And that would be almost correct, but yes, because I'm an architect, but I am a family systems engineer. Family systems engineering is the study of human development over time and how it relates to systems that govern human development and how it relates to the individual, to the family, and by means to the nation. Definitely, because today it's an individual, it's your dad, it's your cousin, it's just family today. But those individuals tomorrow are leaders of the society. They are the government, they are the people. And that is where humanity exists. So that is what family systems engineering is.
Okay. The focus of our conversation is essentially lifestyle. I'm sure everyone has met one person or the other in the course of working, relating with people, going to the banks, going to telcos, going on. You just be, why is this person behaving like this? When you hear such comments, what comes, when you observe such things as a specialist, what comes to your mind?
A lot of things come to the mind, but the simple and the first thing that comes to the mind is, where did this person come from?
Where did the person grow up from?
Yeah, where did he grow up from? What have been their environment? And apart from those two things that will happen while they are growing up, what have their own experiences been? That's what's important. We have a saying that except you step into somebody's life, you don't know what you're thinking. And the place of understanding is what we need to give before we go on offensive with anyone, because you don't know what might be going on in their minds. First of all, let's call family what it is. Family can be defined as a group of more than two people living together, related by birth, by blood, or by adoption. But at our own end, we call family a group of two or more people supported and loved unconditionally in spite of that person and in spite of what we call their negatives. So one of the things that matters in life is that, are we considered? Is somebody in our corner? Is somebody going to support us no matter what we do? Now, if I am leaving home in the morning and I've had an argument with my partner, or if I don't have a partner, I'm not in a good state of mind, or my children are not doing so well and it bothers me, I'm carrying a load already very early in the morning. The first person that bumps into me is going to get some reaction.
Of course.
Because I'm not in a good state of mind. But if I come from a place where there is love, there is support, it takes a lot to be able to love somebody unconditionally. But if you look inwards and deeply, that is what we all really want. Somebody just to take me the way I am. Consideration. That is the first sin. And that is most of the time the only sin.
Mr. Shomi.
Yes, ma'am.
Does loving somebody unconditionally mean that when they do wrong, you don't tell them that they have done wrong?
Okay. Loving...
Or, sorry, I've not finished.
Yes, ma'am.
Or when they commit a crime and you are aware of it, you cover it up. Is that part of unconditional love?
That is not part of unconditional love.
Okay.
Unconditional love starts from day zero for any individual, whereby the parents or the handlers of this individual are able to teach the person right from wrong, what the law is, having a moral compass, so it doesn't even get to the place whereby the person has to commit a crime. Because if you're loving them unconditionally and for that reason you want to hide their crime, what you are doing is you are causing damage to another person or a set of persons. Because every one individual is connected most of the time by at least two people, and those two people have families. So hiding their sins or their crimes is not loving them unconditionally. Part of loving them unconditionally is letting them know that everything has consequences, and teaching them to be intentional at all times to choose good over bad.
What determines good?
Now, that is a place where science has always struggled. Nature and nurture. In family systems engineering, we believe that a child is like a stem cell. It is blank. So everything that it knows or does to an extent has been learned from those around him.
So it's a culture.
It's a culture. What kind of family culture are you practicing? And culture, sir, mind you, are intentional. Now, for those who would say, oh, we can't change that. That is how we've met that. Culture is defined as the behavior of a group of people at a particular point in time.
And so, culture is dynamic.
It's dynamic, and culture is progressive. So what applied in 1902 might not apply today.
True.
And please, people should not forget that those cultures that were created back then happened at different part of development of humanity, when a particular gender was never considered equal enough to be in the place.
Thank you.
So we can have a new family culture that allows everybody to be fine. We can choose respect, which is always earned, mind you, over fear.
Okay. Like men kneeling down to propose to women.
Yes,
I saw a video in the course of the week where a boy was proposing to a girl and said, a Nigerian boy, of course, and said, it is not in my culture for young men to kneel down for women. He was taught to only kneel down for the almighty being.
Yes.
So, and he was explaining this to the girl. I am not going to kneel down, but I'm going to ask you nicely if you will marry me. Is there anything wrong with that?
Now, what happened there in this scenario speaks exactly to what I just spoke about, culture. Everything in this life, when you think deeply, is about wants and needs. What do you need? What do you want? Needs are always more important than what we want.
Yes.
And everybody seems to say that, but do we really believe that or act it out? No, we don't. But we think that we do. What that lady in question needs and what that gentleman needs is a companion to be with for life. Somebody that can choose you at every point in time. When the world seems to be against you, there is just one person that will say, don't worry, we can face them. That is what they need. Lying down underwater, kneeling down, flying in the air doesn't really matter. That is just a gesture. That is a want.
Mr. Shomi.
Yes, sir.
That's what they call savage.
No,
it's okay.
I'm trying not to be savage, but I'm trying to be clear.
But you know,
you are very
clear. There is something that I think, you know, you've spoken about culture.
Yes, sir.
Would you say that we are deliberate about culture, particularly from the family levels? Here's what I mean.
Yes, sir.
There are what I can call accidental parents.
Yes.
They didn't want to be parents. It just happened by mistake. Even though, I don't know, like a mistake that goes through a process, you know, but it happened by mistake. And they are parents. They even tried to make it not happen. Eventually, it did. So that is one. Secondly, you know, people from different kinds of homes, nuclear family, expanded, extended family,
yes,
blended family, and all those things.
Single-parent families.
Single-parent families and all those things. So how do we create, is there a way to, I don't even know how to put it. In other words, such that every child or product of every one of such different kinds of families feed into a particular culture that fosters the national growth?
There's a cliche. Planning to fail is failing to plan. Now, humanity is special in its way, in that if you want a job, you train. If you want to have a good life, you go to school, there's education. Almost for anything that you want to do, there is always some intentional step to get an education, to enhance your skills, to be able to fix that. Except when it comes to family life. Then that's where it is easy to assume. None of us have been married before. None of us have been parents before it happened. Why are we not getting an education towards that? It's a long story, but why is it not in our education culture? Why is it not in our schools? How do you know what you don't know how to do? How do you know what is wrong and what is right? Everybody says there has to be tolerance. You have to give acceptance to people, but there is pseudo-acceptance and there is real acceptance. Coming back to what you just asked me, there is a way, there is a culture, but you have to get the knowledge on how to do that. It is simple. Anybody who is supported, most of the time, if the support is real and is in a way that it's in abundance, you reduce a lot of trauma from that person's life. A lot of trauma, just by getting some things right. Okay, knowledge is weird as it can be. I'll give an example. You know those toast machines, those ones that have those triangles? I was trying to use it for the first time by myself. I always bought those snacks, or somebody always made it for me. I never paid attention. So the day I paid attention, I saw a woman using a brush, taking butter and polishing the mold. I'm guessing so that the bread does not stick to the pan. So she did that, and the first time I was going to do it myself at home, that's what I did. It was a little bit clunky. It took me about 2-3 minutes to do that, then get the bread and put it in the bread. But after I finished, I was proud of myself. I was like, wow, I made this. And I ate it, and it was tastier than the rest because I made it. Then one day, my daughter just walks past me to the kitchen. I'm like, what's up, Nimi? And she says, oh, I want to make toast bread. Then she brings out the bread, takes a bread knife, slashes butter on the outer part of a piece of bread in like 10 seconds, puts it in, and it's done. And I was like, what? That's how it's done? Oh. Then I learned a lesson there. That is, somebody who I would probably not be able to learn from normally just taught me something. I did not seek knowledge before making my toast bread that, okay, this thing has to have a manual. There has to be a way to do these things. Then, that person that rubbed the mold, I never asked the question, why did they rub that mold instead? For them, they were commercial. So that keeps it preheated. They can keep on putting new toast bread for the next 10, 15 minutes before they have to do it again. Because by that time, my daughter's way of rubbing every bread now might not work. Now, if you're not wearing gloves, it might not seem hygienic. What I'm trying to say is that there is basic knowledge for families, family living, to raise children, wholesome parenting, and wholesome marriages. Then, because of the two of you are unique individuals, there will be some things that work in between both of you and in your family than in other families. All those can be taught to you.
Taught to you, meaning that parents, new parents, need to seek knowledge.
Before they even become parents, they need to seek out knowledge.
Well, can't they just
how to
copy and paste from...
That is the thing about copy and pasting. Copy and pasting is what I did by rubbing the mold. So copy and pasting is good to an extent because it gives you an idea, but then it goes beyond that.
I think the point you're trying to make, if I am not jumping ahead, is that parenting back in time has changed from what it is today. And new parents need to get the knowledge. A classic example is the why question. When today's parents were growing up, when they have children today, they say, go, my child, go and do something. Say, why? In their own day. I mean, just imagine asking your mommy or your daddy, mommy, why? That will probably be the last thing you see.
That is the one where they will ask, who born you?
I got the same question this morning. My son took a tab. He wanted to learn, yes. But he took the tab, which was almost run down. Then he took a power bank. And I told them, I am not a fan, I've always told you guys, I'm not a fan of you plugging devices and using them at the same time. Then I told him this morning, and someone to whom I've explained before, came up with this amazing answer or question. Why? Then I was about to tell him about how many ways it would have been hurt in 1981 when I was growing up, if you asked that question of my parents, or even my grandparents, who were supposed to be very nice.
What kind of backhand she would have received?
For being disrespectful. But I did something that I normally do now in life.
Explain.
Before you make any response, take 1 to 5 seconds. Nobody will call you slow. Use that time to sort out your own emotions. To think about why you felt like slapping, you felt like shouting.
Or servicing.
Or servicing that child. Just think about that. So I now told him that, look, these things, there's radiation. The laptop is on your thigh, is in your hand. There could be electrical shots. Anything could happen. You could jump, and even that power bank can fall on your leg. And as you're using it, you know that because it's still on, it doesn't charge enough. It is better for you to have charged it to 100%, then start to use. You could drain the battery by doing that. And apart from that, I'm teaching you life skills as well. I'm asking you to organize yourself, to plan ahead. I'm going to use this tab. Then I will have charged it before then.
Now, one last thing, because we are barely 100 seconds. You talked about parents learning about family dynamics and all those things. I'm wondering, so some PhD holder decides that I need to go to school to learn how to raise my family. Where do I go in the first place?
Okay.
And who is the person that is going to teach you? What does he know? I have PhD.
Internet.
Just so that you don't have to go back to school to go and reach into family science to get another PhD. We have in-betweens. We have academies who are teaching people, or institutes who are teaching people about family systems engineering. Family systems engineering is unique on the continent and even globally, because I can put it to anyone. Search for any particular institute that teaches about family and you will not find. This is unique. Now, the institute is Institute for Family Engineering and Development. That's where you can get that. You can learn for yourself, and you can learn to also be a service provider to other people. And I can assure you that in the at least 6 months that it takes, because it's a rigorous one, some people don't even get to finish that.
Wait. You're saying that there is a school to learn about family?
Yes.
Well, you'll come back another time to come and tell us that.
I'll tell you about that another time. But what you need to know is 2 things affect your family. Your relationship, that is your marriage, and the way you relate with your children. Now, there is parenting and there is marriage, but there is wholesome marriages and wholesome parenting. That's what's key.
Well, let's just pause, because some other time we're going to have to continue this conversation with you in particular, Mr. Shomi.
No problem.
Mr. Shomi is a family systems engineer. He's been with us talking about the impact of family dynamics. I think we have only gone to as far as the part of it.
It's a lot to unpack, but there's no time.
Thank you so much for coming here this morning.
And as my final word, if you don't mind, I want to invite you to our conference. We have a family life conference on the 15th at Muson Center at 9 a.m. Please bring your friends.
Okay.
You will learn a little bit.
We'll send our invoice to you as well. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Well, we are taking the last, what we call it, the home stretch, but right after the wrap.
So it's another weekend, and that means another quick ride into the showbiz space with the wrap on Sunrise. My name is Abide Midairo, and I shall be your driver into that fast-paced industry. And our takeoff point today is going to be on the red carpet premiere of Tiwa Savage's Water and Gari in Lagos, Southwest Nigeria. She's joined by friends within the music and movie world as the evening formed a confluence for both industries. Willow Logomba, Ricardo Banks, Iyabo Ojo, Tony Abraham, Jemima Osunde, and many others walked the black carpet reception for the premiere on Thursday. Tiwa, who arrived in company of his 9-year-old son in a flowing white dress, described our full venture into the movie space as a fulfillment of her love and passion for film, which she revealed preceded her love for music.
Well, the first question is, it was a smooth transition because I had a great team around me. I have people that, believed in me, and acting was actually my first love. So it's a full circle moment for me. In terms of fighting demons, you're right, everybody's human, and as celebrities, we're no different. I think that it's important to face it and know that, you can't run from it. And yeah, God help us all.
There's no place. The movie is directed by music video director Major Levy, and it follows the return of fashion enthusiast Aisha to her fictitious African home after being away for 10 years, only to find out that the demons she ran away from never left.
10 years. So much about this place I'm trying to forget.
Meanwhile, Maven singer Ira Star is in the news for dodging a shady question about American rapper Cardi B. And she has not only been praised by the fans of the rapper, she has also gotten the acknowledgement of the American rapper Cardi B. And this is exactly what happened. So Cardi B had been under fire for forgetting the name of her designer on the red carpet of the Met Gala. In a new viral video on X, Ira Star was stopped by a TMZ reporter who asked her about Cardi B forgetting the name of the designer of her 2024 Met Gala outfit on the red carpet. And the Rush singer quickly dismissed the question, saying it was normal to forget this because of nerves.
Gilbert, she basically the dress that she wore to the Met Gala took months and months to make. Yeah. And she didn't remember the name of the designers who made the dress. And
sometimes.
You think it happened?
It happens sometimes. Nerves.
She said that she was supposed to stand and pose on a podium and there was a lot going on. But I mean, you've been on a lot of red carpets. Is it disrespectful to not know the designer's name?
Nerves sometimes. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know.
Really?
I don't know.
Do you know what you're wearing now?
I don't know. No, this is Casablanca.
Oh, Casablanca. Oh, come on.
Of course, Cardi B responded to the clip on X supporting Ira Star and stressing that the media outlet was trying to shade her. She wrote, and I quote, "Tried to be messy and mission failed. Also, why put a superstar like Ira in such a weird and uncomfortable position?" Now, tributes have been pouring in for the late actress Lizzy Oye, popularly known as Ovuleria in the 1980s sitcom The New Masquerade, as news of her death at age 81 filters through the media. Notable actors and filmmakers, including Jide Kosoko, who was a guest actor on the sitcom, Adebayo Salami, Fred Amata, and many others, have taken to different media to pay glowing tributes to her deft acting. Ovueme, who played Ovuleria, the on-screen wife of the lead character Chief Zebrudaya in the Rested sitcom, reportedly died in her home in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, according to a statement released by the family. The statement reads, quote, "Friends, fans, colleagues, the family of the legendary actress Elizabeth Lizzy Ovuleria Ovueme would like to notify the public, all those who loved her and her work in The New Masquerade, of her passing. Elizabeth Ovuleria Ovueme would be dearly missed and was extremely loved by her family and also by you, her fans." End of quote.
Now you not call this one for them? Yes. What will happen to you? We win a raffle. Nothing, I not you who will sue me to increment your of money. Second, because cost of Gary I go high mountain day. You are the man who took the extra Gary money. Natty a cultivation cassava in his farm, and I took it to make Gary for sale. So Natty, now you the best way want to make all that finish for you.
Finally on the wrap today is AMVCA weekend, and so we'll relive some of the past iconic moments of the awards, and we'll start with the proud big sister moment when Dakore Egbuson Akonde presented the award for Best Actor in a Drama, Movie or TV Series to our brother Timini Egbuson for his work in the Niyi Akimolayan directed Elevator Baby at the 2020 AMVCAs.
I'd like to thank Niyi Akimolayan, I'd like to thank Baba God, I'd like to thank Dakori, I'd like to thank everybody that has ever hired me, and all of you that are not here on this stage, my fans, watch Timini, I love you guys, you get me? I'll make you proud, I promise. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? Oh yeah?
Still in 2020, there was another special family moment, this time between father and son, Tosin Igor and his dad, Peter Igor. They both won awards in different categories and shared the stage, rendering a heartwarming speech.
7 years of the AMVCA, this is the first time that father and son are winning in the same night.
Will he ever make it? Will he ever hear the sound of the cockcrow at dawn?
My name is Olufumilayo Ransom Kuti,
wife of the Right Reverend,
mother of Dulupo Olikoye Fela and Beko Larry. This is about the plight of the Egba market women. This is concerning the flat rate tax on the women, the water level.
The Alaki has brought the fight to us. It is now time for us to take the fight back to him.
Just keep the order. If you fail, you must try again.
Okay.
Overexposed.
Well, you know, we talked to you about a BAP.
Bolanle Austin Pictures. BAP.
You didn't see her on that set?
No.
I assure you.
Oh.
You saw the name.
Now she's been revealed.
Oh.
She's a lawyer. She's an award-winning Nigerian movie and theater director, a producer, and a cultural entrepreneur. She has more than 30 years' experience in telling stories of Africa's history, culture, and Africa's heroes. She's also committed to using the power of storytelling to empower the creative industry. In 2003, Bolanle embarked on an extraordinary endeavor by establishing Terra Culture, Lagos's premier arts and culture center. Please welcome BAP Bolanle Austin Peters.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
And I'm glad to tell you that Bolanle actually arrived in Lagos this morning.
Wow.
And she's on our set.
I'm super delighted to be here. You know, we work together, so it's a beautiful thing to be here today.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
See, let me start with...
My partner can't wait.
I can't wait. You see, number one, you are not just a movie maker, you also produce for the stage. That transition is, as we say on the streets, it's not beans. How are you able to manage it?
So I think first is, I'm a lawyer by training. So I sort of like happened onto this space.
Oh.
And studying people, using my space was how I found my voice. I allowed people to use our Terra Culture Hall, and I started watching. So for over 7-8 years, I was watching others do things, so I was in school. So when I transited and became a director, a lot of people couldn't believe it because they assumed I didn't know what I was doing. So obviously there was some latent talent in there, and they brought it to the fore. And don't forget that Terra Culture itself is a production house because we produce exhibitions, we produce events, so our entire being has always been around production. So doing stage came naturally, well, not naturally, after 6-7 years of understudying others. I had gotten a lot into myself, and then when I started directing, a couple of plays later, we've taken up. I think we have the highest grossing plays in Nigeria, the longest running plays in Nigeria as well. We've taken our plays to London, to Dubai, to South Africa, to Egypt, and stage has become sort of like second nature now, right? I decided, so actually it was COVID. During COVID, when we were not allowed to mingle, I was very frustrated, and I told my team that it's probably time for us to start looking at other ways of making sure that our storytelling is seen by a lot more eyeballs, and also that it's there for posterity. So we pivoted into movie making. I did a little bit in 93 Days. I was the producer and the executive producer and costumier. And then I did Bling Lagosians, which was my first directorial debut with movie making. I didn't know if I could do it, but I'm somebody that I always push myself, and I'm up for any form of challenge. And when we did Bling Lagosians, it was so successful that I said, okay, so directing stage is probably, in my opinion, actually more difficult than movies. And I tell you why.
That was the question I was going to ask you, seeing as you had done both.
Yes.
Because some people just stick with one. But you are doing both.
Yes.
And you're still doing both.
Yes.
Which do you prefer?
Well, I love stage. I love the passion and the energy of stage, and the believability of stage, and the quality of craft of stage actors is phenomenal.
There's no take two.
No, there's no take two, so you have to be extremely good.
So this is stage.
So this is stage. This is stage. And why I say stage is easier for me, is more difficult, is because as a director on stage, you're almost in charge of everything. So the light, the sound, the blockings, the movements, you know, I'm involved in every single facet. So I'm the one that determines where light comes in. I'm the one that determines where sound comes in. I'm the one that writes how movements would take place, and also I write the emotions into people. So you're sort of like doing 5, 6 different things that in movies you have experts for the different units.
To interpret the different things.
Yes. Yeah. The lighting guy is the lighting expert. The sound guy is the sound expert. But on stage, I'm doing everything. And I think that's what gave me this ability to transit very quickly. Because it was now, for me, easy. So I could, do you get what I mean?
Which one did you start with?
I started with stage. Started with stage. Now I've done 7 movies in less than 5 years.
But somebody came here, somebody in the industry came here and said that because stage took so much time to put together and was so much effort.
Yes.
And it also seemed to bring in less money.
Absolutely.
Why are you sticking with it?
I think I'm a diehard. And I clearly love pain. But honestly, on a more serious note, I think that first is that we're creating a lot of impact. A lot of young people who want to be in theater did not have the platform. And there weren't many platforms for theater in Nigeria anymore. And terror culture became that beacon and the platform for most of them to rise. As a matter of fact, a lot of the actors that came through our stage are now movie stars. So if we don't continue doing what we're doing, a lot of them do not get that opportunity to be movie stars just like that. It is when people see them on our stage, they're like, oh, he's good. Then they call them.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I like that. You know, I was actually going to ask you about, we don't have much time, but I really would love for us to talk about this. So you owe us another visit here. But, you know, let's talk about this new flick, this Iyalode. Storytelling is a way to preserve culture. There is no doubt about that. It's the appreciation of it that I'd like you to speak to us about. How well do we appreciate our stories? How relatable are our stories to the young Nigerians?
I think for me, this is probably one of the most important things. So storytelling has the power to change the perception that people have of a people. The Westerners have used this for a very long time. You know, you see an American, they package the way they want to be sold, right? And for a long time, we actually imbibed more foreign culture than we exported our own stories. So our children, in not their fault, it's the generation above us. We did not preserve our stories. We did not package the stories in a way that was consumable by young people. So now a lot of our children don't know our stories. And that's why it's very important that we're telling them that there's a Rosa Parks in America, but there's a Funmilayo Ransome Kuti in Nigeria. What do you know about Funmilayo Ransome Kuti? Most of them just say, oh, she's the first lady to drive a car. That is what they reduced her to. This woman, before Fela, as we say at Terra Culture, there was Fumilayo. Everything Fela did was a microcosm of what his mother had done. Whoa. Everything Fela tried to do, he more or less borrowed from what his mother had done. So it's unfortunate that somehow in packaging our curriculum, we've forgotten that storytelling, our culture, our heritage is probably the most important thing to sell to our children, to give them that sense of identity and that sense of belonging. And I think that what we all are doing now in the movie space and also on stage is that we're bringing those stories back. So Fumilayo Ransome Kuti is one of those stories that not only does it educate, not only does it entertain, but it inspires. It is to inspire young people that one person can make a difference. One woman single-handedly confronted colonial government, confronted the traditional sitting king.
Which was worse than the military.
I mean, without social media. She mobilized 10,000 women. When I was talking to Yeni Kuti and Femi, they told me that until when their grandmother died, they did not know how powerful she was. That when they took her corpse to Abeokuta, that throngs of people, 10 times bigger than the crowd they had at TBS when Fela died. So this woman was one woman who was able to traverse, two social classes. She was well educated, the daughter of a rich man, schooled abroad, came back to Nigeria, garnered all the market women, taught them how to read, put political consciousness into women, and when women were taken out of the equation due to the colonial effect, women were no longer represented in governance. So they were taxing women heavily. She mobilized through education, through political consciousness. She single-handedly rallied 10,000 women, confronted them, and took down the sitting king. And they reversed all the laws and then brought women back into the ruling class. How about that?
Okay, when is this film coming out? When is it coming out first? Because now I can't wait.
It is amazing. It comes out on the 17th of May in all cinemas in Nigeria. And then in June, at some point, it's going to come out on another platform for now, so that people can go to the cinema. Please go and watch it. But most importantly, please take all the children. Schools should be encouraged to take their children, and even the adults should go and see the story. That all our stories should not always be only about thrillers, about comedy. We can achieve a lot more if we're teaching ourselves about our history, because all the frightening stories we hear about kids abroad these days, they've lost the sense of identity. They don't know who they are anymore.
So May 11 is just 7 days away.
May 17.
May 17. Sorry,
Yes.
May 17 is just about 6 or 7 days.
7 days, from now.
6 or 7 days.
We're having the premiere tomorrow at Terra Culture, so you're invited.
Okay.
Although we're oversubscribed.
So don't worry, we can sit on the roof. Well, there's so many, as I said, I mean, you're going to have to commit to coming.
We have to come back and discuss this, I know.
And discuss this, because
Thank you.
the issues are just that we just have to, our time have go. Sorry, it's gone.
Really?
We've run out.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So you want to, no, list all 10 questions.
Iyalode is out of the oven already. What's going into the oven next?
So we have a big one coming through Netflix. It's an original. It's another epic. The House of Ga.
House of Ga? Who's Ga?
It's the story of Ga, a prime minister in Old Oyo Empire who killed 4 kings, and the 5th one took him out eventually.
That is Bashorun Ga.
Bashorun Ga. Even I didn't know of him.
G-A-A.
G-A-A.
Yes.
Unbelievable. And then we have another one, which is Wire, which I think someone here played a role in.
Yeah, but it was just
those boys.
It was just a 30-second.
We'll put you in more, definitely, if you're interested. It's about the boys who are fraudulent. It's a very interesting story.
Okay, BAP.
Bolanle Austin Peters.
Thank you so much.
One
Thank
of my favorite people.
Thank you
very much for coming on Sunrise this morning.
Thank you.
And we wish you
pleasure.
all the best.
Thank you so much.
May you live long to continue telling our stories.
Amen.
And changing the perception of Nigeria.
Amen.
Over there.
Thank you so much.
That is an epic prayer.
So awesome. That's all we have for you today. Thank you for being with us. We hope you'll be with us again next Saturday, same time, same station. My name is Alero Edu.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Do have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Do you know that you can now print all your essential items for events without even having to leave your home? It's the Cast Prints Combo Deal for all events.
Yes!
Weddings, conferences, birthdays, burials, etc. Starting from 495,000 Naira only. You get 50 invites, 50 A2 size posters, 50 16-page brochures, 1 large backdrop banner, 1 roll-up banner, 50 jotters with pens, and 50 souvenir carrier bags. Whatever event you're planning, we can adjust to your budget and quantities. Just send your pictures and other information through WhatsApp, and we shall send a design for your approval. Approve your design, and we will produce with super high-quality digital print technology. We can even arrange delivery to your location. Call us now on 0913-156-5016 or 0812-794-9323 or visit our social media pages. Cast Prints, digital printing